Let's now add more methods into the student management system class. So I would like to add a method that's kind of similar to what we did before. Let me just point it to you. Remember in the student class over here, we had two versions of add course record over here, right? We got two versions over here. One version where we only take the course record objects directly, and another version we take the necessary information for creating a course record and add it accordingly. Okay, we got these two versions. So now the question for you, how can we support these kind of operation like add course record at the student management system level? In this case, in the student class, we say given the students, we can add, for example, 3311 for this particular student. Let's say Jin, right? Let's say Jin is S1. S1.add course record and then give 3311 as the title for the course. Okay, that's at the student level. Now, let's say we move the context to the student management system. And the student management system, this is an extra complication over here. So we have students array. So in order to see which student to add the course into, we want to identify that student first, right? So we cannot just say, for example, we're going to say students at positions, let's say SMS is the student management system objects. You may say things like SMS dot students and then at position 0. And that student, we want to add more course to it, right? How do we do that though? Okay, so that's a question I have for you. Let's see some motivating example over here. Okay, so this is what we have achieved from before over here. And now what I would like to see, let me move this away to here. Okay, so you can see that over here. Okay, so now let's say we somehow created another sixth course record object, CR6 over here. It's 3311 with, let's say, marks 93. Okay, let's say that's what we did. Okay, so now what we want to do is somehow we want to add this new course record object CR6 as the third course object, as a third course for students S2, whose name is Tom. Okay, let's say what we want to do that. How do we do that? You can simply say S2, what we learned before. One way to do it would be, you can simply say, let me use a different color here. One way to do it, you can simply say S2 dot add course record, and then you pass CR6. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's what we learned before. That will work. However, now we want to support the similar operation but at a different level. We want to say now we don't really give you as particular students. We want to say now I only give you the context object being the student management system. Okay, let's say over here. The student management system is the context object over here. And then I'm gonna call a similar method also add course record. But now I give you an extra information, an extra piece of information. I tell you the name of the students I would like to add for the new course. Okay, so I will tell you that, oh, maybe let's say that's not Jin. Let's say it's Tom. Okay, let me just erase that. Okay, let's say we want to add for Tom. Okay, so for Tom over here. Okay, so now how do we do that? So now you can see that, first of all, I want you to compare. If you compare this version of the method call together with the version that we show you before over here, you can see that CR6 and CR6, they are common. However, as we lift one level up, so when we do at the level of the SMS, we have to somehow tell the computer, tell Java how we can identify the students accordingly. And the way we do it is by giving the name of the students. So let's say we identify students by their names, like a student ID for simplicity. Okay. So now how do we do that? So that's how we expect to use this new method, but how do we define that? Okay. So now let's think about what would be the step that's necessary. So now, question for you. So we have two arrays in our system over here. So we have students array for SMS. Also, we have the courses array for S2. Right? So we got these two arrays. Which array should we modify? Do we modify the students array over here, or do we modify the courses array over here? Now thinking this way, if we wanted to modify the students array over here, that means we're adding a new students, not adding a new course record, right? So that means modifying the students array is not the way to go. Basically, what we wanted to do is we want to basically modify the courses array, and somehow we want to create a new link at position 2. You can see currently NOC, the value is 2. That means the third course to be added should be stored in position 2 of the array, right? So now, how do we do that? So basically, we want to add a new link, and then we'll see what will be the Java code necessary to implement that. So now let me just use over here. So now what we really want to do is we want to somehow draw this connection over here, and then increment the value of NOC from 2 to 3. So these are the two things we want to achieve. But how do we achieve that? Okay, at the SMS level. Okay, I'll write down the Java code just to give you some idea for this particular scenario, and then we'll see how we can generalize that as the method definition back in Android Studio. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So basically what we want to do is we want to say SMS dot students, and we're talking about student number 1, right? Because we know that Tom, somehow we know that the index of this particular matching student objects, and we'll talk about index of, pretty much like an index of course that we talked about previously in the tutorial in a moment. So now we know the index of this particular student object with name Tom is at position 1. Okay, so now we'll go to position 1 over here, and then we'll say dot. So now we can go to the courses array. Okay, dot courses, and then we can say now we know that the NOC over here is actually 3 at position. Oh, sorry. Before we increment that, so that should be used to be 2. So we want to do that at position 2 is assigned to CR6, right? So we are talking about these two positions. We want to copy this address to here. So CR6, okay, and that's the first step. And then the second step, we also want to increment the value of NOC. So and also SMS dot students at position 1, and then we want to say dot NOC is assigned to SMS dot students at position 1 dot NOC plus 1. Okay, these are the two steps that we have to program. However, of course, you don't write this. It's only at a conceptual level you can think about that's how it's going to work. But remember, we already got this pattern defined very well over here. We already got, for example, to say something dot courses at position NOC is assigned to something, and also NOC plus plus. We have already got this pattern over here implemented in the add CourseRecord method over here in the student class over here, right? Can you see? Student class over here. So now that means the only thing we have to do is as follows. We only have to see which course objects, which student object has the matching name as Tom. So index of students. Okay, so that's something we also want to program. So index of students is very similar to, analogous to index of course that we defined before, and we'll just do something very similar. Okay, so now what I will do is I'll program this idea, and then I'll show you how you can do that at the student management system level. You should really know both versions, one at the student management system level and also one at the student level. You should know both. Okay, but you should really know the difference and commonality as well. Okay, so now what I would do is, let me now, first of all, let's go to the student class. I'm just going to save some typing. Let's copy this one here, index of course. And let's go back to student management system over here, and then I'll put it here, paste it here. I'm going to say index of students. Let's say we identify each student by their name, or whatever ID it is. helper method for locating where the students with a matching name is. Okay, index -1, the same idea as before, and we use NOS in this case, right? The number of students, right? The number of students over here. Okay, over here, to walk through this array for only as far as NOC is constraining us. Okay, and also over here, so we'll say students over here, and then dot name. Okay, you can see the idea is very similar. Okay, and then I'll say equals name, and then we'll get the index of done. Okay, so that's why I said the index of method as a helper method is a very common way of doing saving your code to make your code looks neater. Okay, so that's index of students. Now, how do we add a course? Okay, the way we do that is by doing this. Okay, let's now do that. Void add course record. So now remember we are now in the student management system class. And over here, what I will do is I will say string the name of students and also course record, let's say CR. Given the name of a students, add a course record CR to that student's courses. Okay, so now as we did before, if you remember over there, we can simply just do we're gonna find out where the matching students is. It's pretty much similar to, I'm going to draw an analogy over here. The way we do this is very similar to how we did for example, get marks. Remember, in order to get the marks for a particular course for a student, you have to find out what that matching course with the matching title is. And find out where it is in terms of index, and then you can go there and then try to get whatever you like, right? And then it's very similar. So now we just have to locate where that student is. In this case, if we give you Tom, so we want to know where Tom is. In this case, Tom should be the second object at position 1 for the students array. Okay, so now we'll find it out. So integer index will be index of students and then the name. Okay, over here, and now we can actually do we'll do the error conditions in just in the last video for this series, but now I'll just leave some space over here. So I would say if index is larger than or equal to 0, that means that it's a valid index, so the student actually exists. So now in this case, what we can do is let me show you 2 different ways to do this. Okay, so now what I can actually, I think the best way to do this, let's just go for the best way directly. And now this will be error. Okay, and we'll do that a little bit later. So else part simply means index is less than 0. Okay, so now what about this this part here? So now we know that, so let me just go a little bit indirectly over here. So now we know that the students that matches this particular criterion for the name over here is assigned to this dot students at position index, right? So now in this case, let's say we try to do SMS.add course record. The index of Tom is going to be 2. Oh, sorry. The index of Tom is going to be 1. Okay, it's going to be index 1 because Tom is exactly the student object at position 1. Okay, the index of is 1. So now, once you go to SMS.students at position 1, you're referring to this particular student. Now I just make an intermediate variable. Let's call it S. Okay, like that. And then I can use S to refer to other parts of the students. Okay, so now what should I do? So now it's rather easy. I can simply say S.add course record. And now be careful, add course record over here talks about what we define in the student class. Okay. And then that's why it's so interesting to see how these 2 versions of add course record is going to define, right? One at the student management system, and in turn we can call the add course record version in the student class as a helper method. Okay. this add course record method is implemented at the students class. Okay, so you can see again, in order to define the add course record at the student management system class, what we do is we first of all use the index of student to identify where the student is, if any. And then in the case where the student can be located, we simply call the add course record method that's already implemented at the student class. Okay, so now this is one way to do it if you want the intermediate variable, or if you like, you can just save it to exactly one line. Okay, I'll just show you an alternative. You can say this dot students at index dot add course record and then CR. That's also possible. Okay, like that. Okay. So now I would like to actually test this method, and now I'll show you a final version of the add course record, because there should be another version where rather than passing a course record object, we can pass the necessary information for us to create the course, okay, internally. So let's go back to SMS tester, and then what we'll do is, first of all, we will create this CR6 course record. CR6 is assigned to new course record. So it's a EECS 3311, and let's say it's 93 marks. We may change it later, okay, the marks. And then, so now what we will do is, so now let's make sure one thing over here. Okay, let me just make it very precise to you. Okay. Okay, let's say before adding a third course at position 2 for S2, which is Tom. Before we do that, it is how it looks like. And then after, we're gonna, let's do this first. Okay, let's execute the program and let's see what happened. We haven't linked the CR6 yet. Okay, you can see before adding a third course, so we got 2 students over here, and then you can see that over here, you will see that the courses over here for the second students, we got basically 1 course and second course, right? That's Tom. Okay, you can see that's Tom. And then we're gonna add the third course over here. Actually, if you like, we can also go back to students over here. Let's add one more thing if you want to make it even more informative. Okay, we can say s plus equal tab. So now back to the student class. I can say name plus this dot name plus a new line. Okay, that's also what I can do. Let's go back to tester over here. Let's try one more time. Okay, now what you will see is, you can see for Jim and also for Tom. You can see for Tom, currently, before we added this new CR6 into it, it only got 2 courses before we do the updates. Okay, it has 1 course and second course. Okay, so that's the first course and there's the second course. But now we're gonna add the third course. Okay, so now how do we do to add it? So now the way we do it is by adding SMS.add course record, and then we want to add for Tom, and then we're gonna pass CR6. Okay, and then we can say after adding a third course at position 2 for S2 Tom. Okay, now if I do that, let's see what's going to happen. Okay, you can see after that, NOC for Tom is actually, NOC for Tom is 3. So we have added 1 course, and this is exactly what we added, which is 3311 and 93, A+. Okay, okay, hopefully you can see how it works. It does work. Okay, and then I'll also show you the debugger in just one moment. Give me one moment. Okay, so now before I do that, I'm also going to go back to the student management system over here. So you can see we got add students over add course record over here. So now we can have also another version where we only provide the information for creating a new course. Void add course record string name and then string title for the course. Okay, and then we can simply call the method, right? But now before we call the method, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a course record first. Course record CR is assigned to new course record and then title. And of course, for this particular CR that we create, as we did before, it has the marks being 0 as default. Okay, and then we can say add course record over here. You can say this if you like. So now this is referring to this version over here. Okay, and then we can pass CR, just as we did for. Okay, don't forget you gotta say name over here. Okay, the name is as the input parameter over here, and CR is the new object we just created. Okay, the way we did this one over here is similar to how we did for this version over here. You can also review that quickly. Add course record over here. Okay, over here. Okay. Now, finally, I would like to show you just how this add course record is being executed at the runtime using debugger. It's really important to see that also at the debugger. Okay, especially I want to see how the different versions, how the versions of add course record at different levels, at the student management level, and then to the student level is being executed. Okay, so now let's put a breakpoint over here right before we execute this add course record, and then let's run the debugger. Okay, now we are right before executing this line. So now what I will do is I'll go for step into. So now, first of all, let's see where the context is. Now we are in the context of student management system over here. Okay, and then we are now in the add course record for student management system. So we are taking the name of the students, which is Tom, and we are taking the course record CR. In this case, it would be the CR we just created, CR6, which has so CR6, which has 3311 and also 93. Okay, you can check the address by yourself, like what we did before. And then we simply calculate the index. You can see the index over there. It should be index 1, right? So we also talked about how the index of works before, so you can just follow that. Okay, index, that will be just 1 over here, and then we know that index is larger than or equal to 0, so it's valid. So now, be careful with this. So now we say that this dot students at position index 1. Okay, let's see what it is. This dot students at position 1. So this is the students, and the students over here is basically Tom. As you can see, if you expand this particular student object at position 1, you will see the name is Tom. The courses object, if you expand it further, you can see this is students array. That's a courses array. And then for the courses array, currently we only got 2 elements filled so far, only 2. So at position 0 and position 1, what we want to do is to add to position 2. Right? Because NOC for this particular courses, for this particular student objects, Tom is 2. Okay, so now rather than saying step over, I would say step into. Let's predict what's going to happen. We are now currently at the student management system class. If we say step into, which class will we switch the context into? So this add course record, let's see what this is. If you look at this expression here, this dot students at index at position index, this will give you a students objects, because we know that students is an array of students. So students at a particular index will give you students. So this dot students at index positions, that will give you student objects, and then of course this is going to switch the context of students for executing add course record. So now if we step into it, you will see that now we are now in the context of student class, and now we are calling this add course record, right? So now if you see that, so now what's the index for? And over here we're just checking to see if CR, which is Okay, let's just go to CR over here. You can see CR is a course record object. If you expand it, I believe you can. Yeah, you can expand the object over here. You can see the title is 3311. So we first check to see if 3311, before we added this course over here, we ought to check to see if 3311 is clashing with any of the existing course record title. Not with 1022, not with 2030 either. So we are okay to add this new course. Okay, so now we can see that the index will just be -1, which means the course doesn't exist, which is okay. So that's not an error for add course. So now we'll simply go, and then we can see NOC at the moment is 2. That means we're going to add to this particular position 2 for this particular CR6. Okay, so we'll do that over here, and then we'll increment NOC by 2. So that means after this, NOC will be incremented to 3. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Okay, so now let me just stop the debugger over here. Okay, so now in this video over here, basically we show you another 2 versions of add course record at the student management system. So far, let me recap. So far we have 4 versions of add course record method in our 3 model classes. The first 2 versions are in the student class, right? The first 2 versions are here. Add student record, which takes this course record object right away, and the second version over here takes the necessary information to create a course. And the next, in the third and fourth version, they are in the student management system class. And the first version there is over here. It takes also the course record objects directly, but it also takes a name in order to identify the students in order to add a course into. Okay, and similarly, we also got another version over here which does not take the student objects, which does not take the course record object anymore. It takes the necessary information to create the course record objects internally. Okay, hopefully you can really compare these 4 versions and see how you can develop your own in your own app.